What is up, guys? It is draft time. We're going to get into another dinger. That is best ball for fantasy baseball on Underdog. Look, it's just about to be March here in a minute, and that means actual draft season is not too far away. Spring training is already taken place. It's underway. So, yeah, I can feel it in the air. But let's get some best ball here. You know, a lot of leagues like to wait as close as possible to opening day to actually do your draft, which is smart. I definitely recommend that. But best ball, not only do you have a little bit less risk in terms of drafting because it's set and forget, and nobody's going to be playing waivers and making trades and all that. But also, this is a time to take advantage of ADP and some sneaky values, which we've been talking about all off season. All right, so let's get into it. Chris, are you ready?
As ready as I'm gonna be. Let's do it.
We need some great enthusiasm and excitement because baseball is the best sport, right? Oh, come on. All right.
Let's do a baseball draft. How about that?
We're doing a baseball draft though. And here we are, the dinger. If you know, guys, you're an underdog. If you already have underdog, just go to the drafts, go to the lobby, go click MLB, and you'll see got a few options here. Dingers, only $10. Big prizes up to $1 million total of prizes. So we're going to do a live draft, 30 seconds per pick. Let's get in that same draft. 3, 2, 1, go. All right.
Four more to start. Are we in the same one? 4 more to start?
Yep, 4 more. So we should fill up pretty shortly here. Anybody who's just joining us, we just got on live. You want to draft with us? Get in there. Couple of spots left. Now down to 3. I'll go over the rules real quick for those who maybe haven't seen this before. And by the way, if you haven't tried yet Underdog at all for anything, I highly recommend it. Baseball, football, any sport that you like at all. Got not only drafts like this for best ball, but also picks, your pick'ems. And pretty soon you're going to be getting your daily MLB picks in. But right now, if you join Underdog for the first time, you've never tried it before, you sign up as a new customer. Use code ENDGAME when you sign up because you get a free pick that you can use for anything. And you can get up to $1,000 worth of bonus cash from your first deposit. So you're playing basically with free money. And there's nothing better than free money, is there? So
not much better than free money.
Free food is up there. Free food always tastes better.
Up there for sure.
All right. Got a couple spots left. So break down the rules here just real quick for those watching this back or maybe haven't tried this yet. This is a tournament. It's best ball. And we always have some people who ask, well, what is best ball? I'm not familiar with it, especially for baseball. I don't feel like it's caught on quite as much as it has with football. It's becoming huge in football. But it's existed for a little while in baseball as well. Best ball means that your best lineup gets set automatically. You don't set a weekly lineup at all. The computer picks who your highest scorers are at each position and does it for you. So it eliminates the headache of trying to figure out who to start and who not to start and not having your optimal lineup in there. So really it's just draft and that's it. Set and forget. So you don't have that maintenance during the season. Now, the downside is you can't make waiver wire pickups at all, and you can't trade, and you can't do anything once you draft. That's it. You're done. So it's drafting, and then you look at your team, you admire it, and then you draft again, and then you keep doing this, and you draft as many teams as possible. I mean, at least that's how I do it.
Yes.
All right. Do you feel like there's a difference? I mean, I don't know. I know you're not you haven't played fantasy baseball as long, but like for football, people hate. That's the thing we spend so much time on, right? It's the weekly lineup decisions. Who do I start? Who do I say? I don't want to start this guy in a tough matchup, or I don't trust this guy, or I don't want this big game on my bench. This guy's injured. He's questionable. That's the best, right? The questionable is going into Sunday. Baseball is different because they play every day. I mean, I feel like, it takes some of the maintenance and the management out and the headaches, but that's also kind of to me, the fun of it. Do you feel like it's more or less viable for one sport or the other?
No, not necessarily. I mean, because, I know there's different formats in fantasy baseball. I learned all about this last year, but I think the most common format, the one we played in last year, is like the head-to-head weekly league. And you have to do if you really want to, like, if you really care, you have to pay attention every day. Because, like you said, there may be a guy who gets scratched from the lineup, maybe, whatever. It's not like football where, yeah, you might be following it. Like, is he practicing today? Is he practicing today? Is he practicing today? And then it's Saturday and you're like, oh, he's not playing. Okay, fine. You know what I mean? You deal with it on Saturday. Baseball, it's like you might have a guy who's just scratched that day for a rest, or, maybe he's dealing with a short-term injury. He misses 3 or 4 games and then he's back. So, and pitchers too, pitchers especially, right? Because obviously, pitchers don't pitch every day. So you might be picking up a pitcher off the waiver wire to stream them. I feel like there's way more maintenance in fantasy baseball than fantasy football. So I don't know. I kind of like less maintenance.
Oh, I know you're a fan of best ball in general, especially in football. So yeah, for a sport like baseball, exactly. That's kind of gets you involved, but without having to check every day. Because I know people just don't have time to check every day necessarily. Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you want something that's just a little bit more low maintenance. Like sometimes players just don't play because they're just not in the lineup. They get a day off, or there's a left-handed pitcher, so that left-handed hitter sits, and so you don't have to worry about that. So if you like baseball, and maybe if you're just not heavy into it, but you want to draft a team, I mean, this is perfect for that. And that we just need, is it 1 or 2
Two more?
people?
We were at 1 more. Now we need 2 more.
Yeah, somebody might have jumped out. Sorry, we need 2 more people. And then as far as the way it works, showed you it's a tournament. You got the first 17 weeks. It's qualifiers again for football. That's the entire season for fantasy.
Yes.
But then you got 2 more weeks for the quarters, 2 for the semis, and then 2 for the championships. And then they omit the last week. For pitchers,
I do kind of like that, because the thing about football, in any sort of fantasy sport, there's a lot of randomness and variance. And with football, right, you could have a great team make your fantasy playoffs, and then the first game of the fantasy playoffs, your team lays an egg and you're out.
Oh yeah.
So I do like that there's 2 rounds for each, or 2 weeks for each round, I should say.
Yeah, and I know there was some I felt like last year's more of these leagues for football that they were doing a 2-week championship or something. And I guess there's some that default, was it ESPN? That now they default to that 2-round. I don't know. For baseball, it's a lot easier to do that because there's so many more weeks. But yeah, I like that too. And it's not 1 game, right? It's a week, and in a week, a baseball team is playing 6 or 7 games, so a lot less variance. No closers will be drafted, or at least they shouldn't, because that's a really bad waste of a pick, because you don't get points for saves or holds. You do get 5 points for win and 5 points for quality start. So you do want those pitchers who can go the distance. Of course, these days the distance means like 6 innings. And the innings pitch, you get 3 points just for racking up an inning, and 3 points for a strikeout, and -3 for earned run. So you do want those workhorses if possible. And for hitters, again, I want to emphasize this. While a home run is 10 points, a single is 3, a double is 6, and a triple is 8. So if you do the math there, it's not exactly driving up what you would expect a home run to be, twice as much as a double. But here, a double is 6. So those guys who rack up hits that aren't necessarily just home run hitters, they are very valuable in this format. And walks give you 3 points. RBIs and runs are only 2. So you have to wrap your head around that, a walk being more valuable than an RBI. People who play in points leagues, you understand the importance of getting on base and walks. But again, this point format is very specific, and a stolen base is 4. So those are definitely valuable. But yeah, this changes your strategy. So you might not see the ADP here in the rankings exactly the same as you would for just like a traditional redraft league.
Yeah, that is some interesting scoring for sure.
Yeah, and obviously there's a reason. They're trying to find some sort of a balance, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want like the star hitters to be too overpowered compared to pitchers. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rosters. You need 3 pitchers, 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, and then 1 flex spot. And then the bench will double that. You got 10, a total of 20 players, right? 20 rounds in this draft. It's a 12-team league. And then, of course, it's tournament format. So after you wind up getting your roster together here after the draft, you just sit back and watch the points accumulate. And
Right.
we're ready to go. All
Let's
right,
do
let me
it.
get that
I'm ready.
draft board up. You have, what is it, the 6th?
I got the 6.
Not
You
bad.
got the 9.
All right, let me put the draft board itself up. All right, Jarrell is asking, maybe just got on here. Is this head to head? It's not. It's you're going for the biggest point total at the end of the qualifier, like week. What I say was week 17.
Yep.
You want to be top of the pack basically in points at the end of the regular season. And so each week you just accumulate points. It's best ball format. So how many points your guys get, each week that gets totaled, added up. And then at the end of the regular season, week 17, whoever's at the top of the heap moves on. And then you're going, I don't know, I wouldn't call it head to head, but you're competing with the bigger pool of people who made it to the quarterfinals and then the semis and then so on. All right. Yeah, it is. It is odd to see a walk being more valuable than RBI and run. You have to shift your thinking here. And this is just a good reminder, guys, if you do play in any sort, it really doesn't even matter. Whatever the format is, you got to check your league settings because there is no like one size fits all kind of way to play fantasy baseball anymore. Points league, roto league, you got to check because the categories could change. You have to check your rules and your settings.
All right. I think I took Kyle Tucker as my first pick last time too. So
all right, let's see. Ohtani number 1, not a shock. Judge, Soto, definitely. I mean, you can make an argument Soto could be the number 1 pick in this format.
I feel like stolen bases are worth 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz could maybe be the number 1 pick in this format.
Yeah. Yeah. De La Cruz, very valuable. Again, batting average doesn't really, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, obviously getting hits and getting on base matters, but batting average itself, you don't have to really think that way. Now, the other thing I've talked about a lot, I think I've mentioned this every single time we've done one of these underdog drafts, and I think I have to mention it again, is you have to think of roster construction. Even though you don't have to worry about catcher, first base, second base, third base, there's only infield, outfield, pitcher, but you have to think of the balance and when you're taking what. Outfielders, there's just a big difference here in terms of the top couple of tiers and then the rest. So you're usually going to see pretty outfield heavy first couple of rounds. We are seeing some infielders go a little earlier than they were. And I get it. There's some risk here, right? Chris knows all too well about Julio Rodriguez not being worth a first-round pick last year.
Yeah, I know all too well. But I do feel like outfield is where you want to attack early in these things. I feel like there's good infielders late.
The thing with some of these outfielders, again, they're super high ceiling, but also there's risk. Julio is, still worth an early pick. But like guys like Fernando Tatis, so many injuries. Yordan Alvarez, I just took Yordan. I'm always a little nervous because he always misses some time, He's, again, super valuable in this points format. I just hope, he doesn't have an extended IL stint because he always seems to have something. All right. Well, Uh, I'm tempted to take Churio here, that high ceiling, but I'm I don't know. I'm starting to kind of like slowly talk myself into MVP Vlad season. I think Vlad is just gonna kill it. So I'm gonna take Vlad.
I have no idea who I'm going to take here.
Let's see. You're next. All right, here you go.
Yeah, Lindor. Skeens. Do I really want to go pitcher this early? Acuna coming off ACL.
Yeah, that's pretty optimistic.
Actually, I think I will just go Skeens.
All right, going pitcher. Yeah, that was a surprise. Tony sending a Schwarber 8. I mean, look, I get that he's high in this format for a reason, but still, I think 8 is. I don't know. Yeah, he walks a lot, right? He walks a lot. He will, of course, hit you a lot of home runs, but RBIs are a little bit devalued, as I mentioned. He's not stealing bases. I mean, he's worth an early pick, but 8? I don't know. I don't know about 8. Yeah. Langford also a guy. I mean, I'm super high on Wyatt Langford, but now I'm worried because everyone else is becoming super high on him. Now I'm worried it's like too much helium. You know what I mean?
Yep.
23 overall. Yeah, I don't even know if I can do it. Yeah, so Tony, if you just jumped on here, this is points, but it's best ball. So it's a little bit different, it mitigates some of the risk there. And also I went over the points, like I broke down the rules at the beginning. So like a walk is worth 3 points, a single is worth 3 points, a home run is worth 10 points, RBIs and runs are only worth 2 points each. So yeah, it's a little different. All right, what'd you do?
Teoscar Hernandez.
Oscar. Not bad. I got you had last year, Rafael Devers. I'm getting nervous about him too, those shoulders. I don't know.
Yeah, he losing him at the end of the season hurt my chances a lot. It was a big blow.
I mean, I know I keep talking about the importance of outfield early, but I feel like I like the infielders here better. I'm going to go Trey Turner. I think he's a little devalued. And I think at this point, again, the underdog community is pretty sharp. So again, I feel like at this point, everybody knows the strategy. They're like, yeah, you got to get outfield early. And now everyone's getting them, and the ADP has become like overinflated for some of these guys. Like Ian Happ in the 3rd round, really? Because is he winning you your league? And then some of these stud infielders are available later. So I think we're overreacting a little bit.
Usually that's how we do it in fantasy.
It's always the way. And it's not necessarily a good strategy ever to just take a player because of their position, no matter what it is. You're like, oh, I need this. I'm going to take this just because I want that position. Or I'm always going to take whoever I think the better player is. Wow. I talked about, overly optimistic. Mike Trout, 38.
Come on, that guy's playing 50 games max. Even I know that.
Yeah. It's not doing it. Even best ball. I don't care if it's best ball. There's just no way.
Nah, if he's not out there second half of the season, what good is he?
Exactly. Man. See, again, I almost just refuse on principle. I love Riley Green and I like Green in this format, but I refuse in principle to take him this early because I remember, a month ago, I was getting him in the 60s and the 70s. Now he's 43.
Lawrence Butler this high?
Yeah, Butler's a risk and reward, calculated risk. But, I feel like you can take some more chances on players like him in best ball because you don't have to worry about the spikes are good, right? The down weeks and the slumps might offset because you have other players to take their place. So,
all right, I'm just going to take the slight value on Marte.
yeah, Marte's a good pick. And this is where it's different in a redraft league, like your typical ADP right now. I think Marte is like in the late 20s, so getting him here, feels like a bargain. Yeah, and I wonder, do you think it's having it where walks are worth that much and like singles and doubles are worth more than RBIs and runs? Do you almost feel it's like a tight end premium kind of thing? It's like, okay, we're really trying to like make these certain types of players, like force them to be more valuable. It's that kind of thing. I know you're generally not in favor of that type of scoring system.
No, I almost wonder if, like, when Underdog first introduced baseball, they didn't understand it too well. I'm being serious.
Possible.
They started as a football only site platform, right? And then they branched out into other sports. So I wonder if maybe they, threw something together. And I know they probably don't want to have the exact same scoring as like DraftKings and FanDuel and all the other sites. Yahoo, they probably want to have their own kind of scoring. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, I know it's fantasy football, or fantasy baseball, not real baseball, but come on, a walk.
Yeah. All right, you're up.
Like a walk. Oh, I'm on the clock. Do I go with my guy Jazz? Let's go.
If you don't take him, I will.
That was a trade of the year last year.
Yeah, don't remind me. All right, you got balance. You got one pitcher, two infielders, two outfielders. Oh, here we go. My turn. I don't have a pitcher yet, and that's by design, but here we'll take Logan Gilbert. Yeah, no, I do get that. Maybe that's to some extent it's just to be unique, right? Like this isn't what everyone else does. We're going to do it slightly different, and there's some benefit to that. Look, I don't think it's terrible, but
I'm sure they have a reason for their score.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I think it's also like, a lot of people, I know you're not a fan of this either. They're like, let's try to reward the players who are more valuable in real life, right? Like, in real life, a walk is just like as good as a single and it's more important. And, home runs are great, but, we shouldn't overemphasize those. So it's like, we're going to make it more real, but you're like, but it's not real. It's fantasy.
But see, that's still a little bit of backwards thinking because nothing, absolutely nothing for a hitter is more valuable than a home run. Like a home run is exponentially more valuable than anything else. Because when somebody hits a home run, your team is guaranteed to score.
True.
Right? If somebody, Ozzy Albies coming off a down year.
But it's an odd year.
Oh, is that how he does it?
It's an every other year thing with him.
I really want an outfielder here, but all right, let's go. But so if your theory is let's reward the things that are actually more valuable in real life, then home runs should be worth the most by far. I mean, I know they are worth the most, but like a home run should be worth more than double a double.
More than double.
More than double a double.
Yeah, more like, because if you think about it, I mean, in real life, total bases, right? A single or a walk is 1. You get into first base. A home run is 4. So you think it would be 4 times as valuable to get a home run, but in here it's not. It's a 3-to-10 ratio. Not a 1-to-4. It should be 12 points, right? But it's not.
It should even be more because it's kind of like it's like if we put it in like football terms, is it more valuable to have a running back who routinely gets 3 to 4 yards, or is it better to have a running back who gets stuffed a lot, maybe loses yards, but at any moment can rip off a 70-yard touchdown? Like that 70-yard touchdown is so much more valuable than that bruiser who's always falling forward, right? Because it's like you can't fall forward all the way until the end zone. Like eventually, this field's going to shrink, and you're going to have to do something else. That you know what I mean? It's like, like you could have like Tony Gwynn back in the day. Like I remember when I grew up, it was like nobody cared about home runs. Like no, really, it was like, oh, you hit 400, wow, that's so great. But like if Tony Gwynn comes up with 2 outs and nobody on and slaps a single, chances are the next guy coming up is going to ground out or fly out, and then the inning's over. Right? That's it. You get no runs. Even if Tony Gwynn does that every inning, every time he's at bat, I mean.
Right.
But somebody comes up 2 outs, nobody on, hits a home run, at least your team gets a run. Like that is just so much more valuable.
And what's interesting too is, you're comparing like back then, we're talking about 80s, especially like 90s, early 90s. Yeah, guys hitting 300 something, that was more common, right? That didn't mean you were the best hitter. It just mean, you were one of the better hitters. But nowadays, it got to even get to 300. Like, wow, that's impressive. It's like, what? It's hard for me to still kind of adjust to that thinking. But yeah, home runs have become a lot more common. So
it's like the 3-pointer. It's probably a better comparison, like the 3-pointer in the NBA.
Right. Everybody shoots threes, even the centers.
It's like, why take a 20-foot 2-point shot when you can move back 3 or 4 feet or however far it is and get an extra point? You know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, it's true. It makes sense. Okay. Between a couple of pitchers, I feel like I've got a lot. I know I have got a lot of George Kirby. He would be my guy, but just to differentiate, I'm going to go Framber.
I feel like I don't have nearly enough outfielders right now. How did I get to this spot with only 2 outfielders? How did this happen?
You're going for value.
That's true.
Yeah, that is actually a really good comparison. Exactly. It's like, and a lot of people hate it. Like you go and you watch the games now in NBA, and I say it too sometimes, like that's all it is. It's like a 3-point shooting contest. But it's true. It's like, if you think about it, the percentages, if you're going to take a, 18-foot jump shot versus, moving a couple of feet back, if you're going to shoot from distance, why not just shoot from 3 and get the chance for extra?
Exactly.
All right, maybe Kirby will fall to me here. Let's hope.
I mean, I will say though, it's made, like, at least in baseball, outside of the purists, the old guy, the traditionalists, whoever's, we all want to see a lot of home runs, right? We all want to see home runs. There's a reason why there's a home run derby.
This is true.
I mean, it's cool to see a 3-pointer, but nobody just wants to see, 43 pointers a night.
Well, there should be some balance, right? It shouldn't be all one way or not the other.
Well, it's just kind of where, I mean, I know we're doing a baseball draft and we're talking NBA, but it's kind of where the NBA is gone, right? Like it's just basically a 3-point shooting contest.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Now everybody basically and the part of the problem is, like every sport, copycat league, right? And the Golden State Warriors with Steph and Clay and basically winning just by shooting threes. Everyone's copying it. That's
Yep.
it. We can do that. It's easy to jack up a three. Anyways, I mean, I think baseball is in a pretty good kind of in between space now because obviously you got a little out of control in the steroid era with McGuire and Sosa and Bonds and all that. That's all it was about, right? That's like it just dominated. And look, everyone likes home runs, and nobody hated it, but it just then all of a sudden you have guys coming up. That's all they're trying to do, and then the batting average is plummeted, and then you're like, okay, is this just going to turn into a home run derby type of thing? And then we forgot about pitching and the art of moving the runner over and things like that. It can't go one extreme or the other. It doesn't have to be, right? So now, like, we still have more power than we did a couple of decades ago, but it's not as crazy as it used to be. So, I mean,
I know. I miss that era.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, you missed the steroid era.
Yeah, for sure.
It was fun.
It was
nobody
fun.
hated it.
I mean, isn't that what it really should be? I know there's people. I know. I get it. The records. But yeah.
Well, I'm on record right now. I think it's absurd that Barry Bonds is not in, Roger Clemens. Guys like that, it's just ridiculous for them not to be in the Hall.
I mean, yeah, of course it's ridiculous, but it was more fun then. I mean, I remember when McGuire hit number 62. That was that little line shot over the left field wall. We were watching. I was still living at my parents' house because that was what year? That was what 90. What year was that? 94.
No, it was later than that. 94 was the strike year. It was short.
Okay, it was 96.
90. No, it was 98. I think. Yeah,
98. Okay, whatever. But I remember sitting on my mom's couch. My mom watching it right there. My friend Ken watching it with me. We're watching this game to see if he can do it. In 98.
Right. And just for the record, for those who don't know, Chris, you used to be a big baseball fan, and then we're not so much a baseball fan, and now you're becoming a baseball fan because I'm making you. But not like a long time, like, huge baseball. That's the point, is that even people who didn't obsess over baseball were watching.
Exactly. But I was still pretty into baseball back then.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I will say this, like, I don't really watch. I mean, maybe it's just my age. I don't really watch basketball anymore. I don't really watch hockey anymore. I used to really watch hockey. And when I do watch hockey, like that Four Nations thing that they did, which, by the way, kudos to NHL for actually making the All-Star game, like making it actually exciting. All right, well, I almost took him last pick, so let's take him here. But man, watching a baseball game, it's just like, oh man. I will say, I'll say this though, in fairness. Last year, because I was doing fantasy baseball, I did watch a tiny little bit of baseball. That pitch clock is awesome. Whoever thought of that, kudos to you. Well done.
Yes.
It's so refreshing to have a pitch and then a pitch and then a pitch. Man, I remember some of those like Yankees playoff games. It's like one at bat would be like 20 minutes or something. Like one guy, one at bat. Like, right? It'd be like a pitch. You got to get out of the box. You got to knock your cleats. You got to fix your gloves. The pitcher's got to do the rosin. Got to fix his hat. Got to blow on the ball, spin it around. right? Then you got to get the sign, shake it off. You got to step off. You got to do all that all over again. Get the sign. Nope. No. Okay. Now the manager's coming. It's like, oh my gosh, throw a pitch.
Yeah. Look, all of that, it's like anything, especially in baseball, like it was a change. There was some griping, right? There's some resistance, but nobody misses that. It was all completely unnecessary, right? You don't have to take forever to throw a pitch after you just threw a pitch. Like that's your job. Go out there and pitch.
Right.
So yeah, the pitch clock, I'm a fan. The 3 batter rule, I think is great because it got ridiculous with every other batter, not even every other. Sometimes it was like 3 batters in a row. You had 3 different pitchers. Like, come on, that almost takes out the strategy. Like, no, this part of the strategy. Like, no, you're taking out the strategy because all you're doing is throwing out a lefty versus lefty, a righty versus righty. How about think ahead, right? Like in chess, you have to think ahead of the next 3 batters, not just who's in the batter's box right there, right then. So,
yeah. Answer me this. I say that I saw there's something now you can challenge strike calls.
Yeah, well, they're moving another thing. It took a while, but replay finally came in, and I'm ready for full on. I know they're doing the minors like the robot umps. I'm ready, full 100%, all robotic umps.
Yeah, at least at home plate, like balls and strikes. But how is that going to work? Like, can hitters challenge a call or only pitchers?
I don't know how they're going to implement it for sure in the majors. They're still kind of, I think, experimenting with that. It's funny.
Well,
I saw today.
on spring training, there was a pitch, and the pitcher like did this, and then the catcher said, "Hey, we want to challenge it to the ump," and then I'm sure embarrassingly for the ump, he had called it a ball. It was ruled a strike. Which I'm sure does not feel good if you're the umpire.
Right.
But then I was thinking, I'm like, well, wait a minute, can hitters do that too? Because that wouldn't be fair if like there's a pitch clearly off the plate and they call it a strike, and it's like, can the hitters challenge it too?
It would have to be both ways, I'm sure. But yeah, I saw that. I think it was the Yankees game, right? Spring training game, because the robot ump, called it a strike, whatever, and the fans started booing. So like, yeah, instead of just booing the ump, now you can boo the robots. Okay, I'm up. See, this is where already we're around 12, and like already outfield is very iffy. And I hate it. All right, let me make a boring pick. Oh, looks like we have a question. All right, let me move this. Let me slide this draft board up a little bit. All right, Chris, you're up again. Nice. Okay, so Justo-san is in a 10-team roto OBP instead of average. All right, so kind of like we're talking here, walks matter. Keeping Lindor second round. What other 2 should I keep? Got Gilbert, guy I just drafted, Ozuna in the 11th, or Caminero in the 23rd. I mean, I think we gotta keep the 23rd round potential stud player. I mean, I think we always have to do that. I'm tempted to say Gilbert. I think Gilbert. I mean, look, Ozuna, great value there. The 11th round is pretty good, but I just feel a little bit more secure about Gilbert. That feels fair, although it is, you said it's a 10-teamer. That one's close. Yeah, Caminero is a definite keep. I think I still would go Gilbert.
Yeah, don't ask me. I have no idea. I don't even know how I'm drafting this team right now.
Hey, you're doing pretty good. What's up, Eddie? Eddie's on there. You remember Eddie? Well, that's weird. And
Dude,
Anthony,
what's up,
they're
Eddie?
saying the notification didn't jump on.
Yeah, people say that on the football channel too. I don't know. I don't know what's up with the notifications.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Sorry about that, but I mean, I scheduled it ahead of time, a few hours ahead, and then we've been live for 40. But YouTube is kind of weird sometimes about the notifications. Now, unfortunately, we don't have like a very specific schedule for these streams. This is preseason best ball draft, so it's just kind of whenever we get a chance. But yeah, as far as the videos, they should be a pretty regular schedule.
I actually like getting Rodon right there as my third pitcher in this format.
I'll take Flaherty here. I feel like that's a good value. So again, you said something about taking who third?
No, I like Rodon there because one thing I noticed, because I picked him up and streamed him last year and then just kind of rolled with him for a long time. And I had him and I had who's the other Yankees pitcher, but not Garrett Cole, the other, like their third rotation guy, someone with an M.
Marcus Stroman?
Yes, I had both of them for a while. And one thing I noticed about Aaron Boone, who I assume is still the manager, otherwise none of this matters.
He just got a contract extension too.
Like, he just does not like to use his bullpen. I don't know if the bullpen was really bad or what, but I remember there were times where I'd have like Stroman or Rodon pitching, and they would be getting rocked. And I'm like, oh man, like, this guy's gonna get yanked and wreck my. And then Rodon would go, he would give up like 6 earned runs, but still go like 6 or 7 innings. Like, I'm like, what? So in this format with innings, at least he eats innings.
Well, yeah, innings eaters are more valuable, and of course, if they're giving up runs, that counteracts it. But that is something to consider, how deep a guy is going into games, because you can't, as you can't get a quality start unless you go, at least 6 innings. So yeah, that's part of the consideration.
Like, probably one of the most frustrating things about fantasy baseball last year is when I would pick up a streamer, a guy that's like, yeah, it's a risky stream, right? It's a risky stream. It's risky. And they go out there and pitch like a third of an inning and give up like 4 or 5 runs and get pulled.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I would have been better off just not even having a pitcher.
Yeah, that's the fun of it, right? That's the equivalent of the running back that goes out there and like fumbles and then gets benched and then basically just like gets you negative points, doesn't play.
Right. Or, it was also equally as frustrating the other way is I had so many pitchers like 5 2/3 innings, only give up 1 or 2 runs, but they get pulled with 2 outs in the 5th inning.
Oh, that's the best.
It's like, why are you pulling this guy with 2 outs in the 5th? Let him try to get the final out.
Yeah. It's funny because sometimes you're like, okay, they gave up a hitter, like there was runners on and they wanted to get out of the inning. But then sometimes honestly there was no reason. They're like, hey, yeah, he's at 79 pitches. Let's get him out of there. Like there's no reason, nobody on base, nothing. They're just like, I swear there's some managers that do it on purpose too, like Rocco Baldelli in Minnesota. I feel sometimes he's just like, yeah, you're not getting the quality start.
Like the owner's like, hey, we put into his contract, if he reaches X amount of quality starts, we got to pay him $1 million more. Don't let it happen.
Something like that. Like,
yeah, it was frustrating sometimes following the games, and it's like, all right, 2 outs in the 5th inning. He's only given up like 2 earned runs. He's at like 84 pitches, and then all of a sudden it's like, and how I know it would be happening? Because I'm not watching the game, but I'd be following it like on ESPN or whatever. Or like Gamecast. Yeah, and it's like a minute goes by, a minute and a half goes by, and a pitching update. I'm like, oh, they're taking him out, aren't they? And then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later, it's like a pitch updates, but it's a different pitcher. It's like, oh, come on.
That's what makes fantasy fun.
Yeah, something like that. Boy, I drafted this team totally backwards today. All right, let's see here.
Well, look, I almost always kick myself for getting pitchers too early because like here is where all of a sudden there's like a glut of pitchers I like. I
Right.
like especially because of the ADP, but there's a lot of good pitchers still here. I can't draft them all, but
No, I mean,
well,
there's a lot of pitchers here that you just look at and like these guys can eat innings, not get blown up too often.
yep, that's Barrios. So 3 in a row just went. Fought is a good one. I do like Wu a lot, but I worry about his innings because sometimes he would go 5 and that's it. I don't know if he's as good in this format. I still need an outfielder. It's too soon. All right, I'll take a guy you know. Actually, no, I'm not going to take him because he's hurt. I'll take another guy I like. Yeah. By the way, I know because Sean Manaea is still up there, but I forgot he just got a strained oblique, so he's going to be out a while.
Yeah, Sean Manaea was great for me. He's another guy I picked up to stream and just. Well, I picked him up and dropped him probably multiple times, and then I was like, why do I keep like? I'm like, this guy's just solid almost every outing. I'm just gonna keep him.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what the Mets did. They kept him. That's right. That's exactly right. Chris is. I think that we can give that nickname to you, the Streaming King.
I don't know about that. It worked mostly well. There was definitely times it did not work well. Oh my gosh, there were definitely some times where it backfired big time.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not going to work every time, but what does?
But I did start to figure out like what to look for more in streamers. Oh man, too bad he's hurt. I need outfield.
The thing is, too, with streaming is, I mean, you can basically get it right and then be wrong because like this guy's been on fire, he's doing well, he's kind of being underrated, he's got a great matchup, like this should be a great pickup, and then he gets blown up. Like you had it, like everything in your process was right, and then the outcome was disastrous. But
well, I mean, but that can happen with the stud pitchers too.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Like, I don't know how many times it was like I would have a day where I have like 4, maybe even 5 pitchers starting that day. And I'm just thinking like, okay, I'm going to be so far ahead in like strikeouts and quality starts. Maybe not ERA, depending on, how they pitch. And then I would end the night with like 1 quality start, hardly any strikeouts. Because it's like they were all terrible. It's like, how could they all be so bad?
Yeah, but that's why I like the weekly format, the head to head, because it keeps you, involved basically almost every day. Like, you don't have to check it every day, but you can, and still, like it rewards activity, in other words. So,
yeah, I will say one thing I didn't like at the beginning was that we only had so many waiver moves a week. But then as the season went on and I started to understand it, I started to understand why, because I'm like, if we had unlimited waiver moves, I could probably get 150 to 200 innings every week of pitching. And even if my pitching, oh, I forgot I was on the clock. Even if my pitching wasn't great, I probably am going to at least win quality starts and strikeouts just because I'm going to have so many opportunities. Just law of averages.
Right. Well, the other thing that does, putting the limit, is, you can't be one of those guys who's like, I'm just going to pick up all these players that nobody else can. Some people do that because you have the waiver rule, and they'll pick up a player and then drop him just so he's on waivers for the day. Nobody else can get him, and do that over and over again. Like that's not fun. That doesn't make it fun for anybody.
Well, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Take a shot on Josh Young.
But then I figured out how to I wouldn't say get around it, but I got to the point where I'm like, I tried to bank some waiver moves going into Sunday.
Right.
So either if I was, if I was so far ahead in like strikeouts and quality starts, and where I wasn't worried about my opponent catching me, or maybe my opponent only had like one or two pitchers going that day, I was already ahead by 3 in quality starts, and he's not going to catch me in that one. It's possible. Then I would start picking up pitchers for the next week using those. So it would basically give me extra waiver moves for the following week. Or if I was behind and I needed to, I could go out on Sunday and just grab a bunch of streamers and hope they came through.
Make that last minute comeback.
So it's fun. I mean, it's different than football as far as strategy goes, because football is basically like once Sunday hits, that's it. You're pretty much done, right? I mean, you're at the mercy of the players at that point, because once Sunday ends, but you got one Monday night game basically. So,
well, that's what's different too, is even though like if you do head-to-head weekly scoring, it's like, okay, each week is a different entity, as far as the scoring goes, but there's carryover from one week to the other. Whereas like with football, it's like each week is its own thing. Like once that week's over, like you said, you kind of like hit reset, and now you have to think about the next week differently based on what happened. And with baseball, it's not that easy, right? It's not like, okay, now they're playing this team and it's this and this. No, it's like they might play the same team, that they're playing on Sunday, which was a different scoring period. Then they might play that same team again on Monday, which is a new scoring period. This guy might carry a streak for 5 days or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like it's all like interwoven. I don't know. But I did hear you. I didn't hear wrong. I heard you say it's fun. I heard that.
No, it's fun for sure. Like any game where there's like a strategy. Well, that's what I was gonna take. So now do I go with another pitcher, I guess. Any game where there's a strategy where you feel like you have some influence. I know it's still up to you're still at the mercy of what the players do and how they perform, and you have no control over that. But
yeah,
again, even in fantasy football, you only have so much control, right? Because the other thing about fantasy baseball that you don't have in fantasy football is there are always players available on the waiver wire in fantasy baseball that are usable. Whether that player is just hot right now, whether it's a pitcher going up against a weak lineup, whatever, there's always opportunities on the waiver wire. That's not always the case in football, right? Like there's weeks in football where it's like, yeah, this waiver wire week sucks. Like, I hope you're not desperate because there's nobody good on the waiver wire, right? Or a lot of times what happens in football, like the Dontavian Wickses of the world, right? They go off that one week and everybody thinks this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. And then we don't see him again. He hardly does anything the rest of the season, right? You get these one-off random games. Whereas like you said in baseball, because it's every day, a hitter gets hot, you grab him, you roll them till he starts to cool off, and then you drop him and move on to somebody else. Or, or a pitcher's going up against the worst lineup in the league and he's a decent pitcher, you grab him and stream him that week.
Exactly. Yes, there was always options. And it's definitely not always that way in football.
No, definitely not in football.
And I like it because, I mean, you don't have to be like a supreme expert, know all the stats and all the advanced. I mean, you don't. You just kind of have an idea of the players, but you don't even have to know every player.
All right.
You know what I mean? But
is Stanton retired or something?
who?
Giancarlo Stanton.
He should be. He might as well be. He's hurt again already.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it. I'm like, why is he still on the board?
Yeah, and they don't know when he's going to be back. It's an elbow thing. But again, you don't have to know everything, but I like because it rewards that deeper knowledge and the analytical. It doesn't always turn out the way you think. So, but I feel like the more you put into it, the more you can get out of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like once I started to kind of get the feel for it and the hang of it, I mean, I do feel like obviously the league we were in last year, I mean, Anthony was in it. He's super knowledgeable. And there was obviously guys I could tell that were very, very knowledgeable in there. But there were some newbies like me, it seemed like. So it wasn't the most competitive league, right? It wasn't like an expert league or something.
No, not expert.
But I think my biggest edge over most of the league, not that I won, although I did make it I think I made it to the final four.
Yep, you were in the semis.
But I think the biggest edge I had over the league is that I just paid a lot of attention. And I don't mean I paid a lot of attention to like watching the games. I just paid a lot of attention to my team. I was constantly looking at my team, looking at the waivers, seeing like, okay, who's struggling on my team? Okay, like this guy has been struggling. Is there somebody on waivers at the same position who's hot right now that I could pick up and plug him in over this guy for a while, like stuff like that, or who are the good streamers? Like just paying attention that way.
And that's a big part of it. Is just stay on top of it because the draft is, a very small part of what you do, especially with baseball. Such a long season, but there's so many things that change. Just being active is like 90% of it. All right, time for last pick. I got mine in. I went a little, well, I wouldn't say heavy. I'm pretty balanced. 6 pitchers, 7 infielders, 7 outfielders. I feel pretty good about my first 3 pitchers, so I don't think I had to go too deep. I actually feel pretty good about my last pitcher. What you got?
Wait, isn't Yainer Diaz the catcher for Houston?
Yeah.
Isn't he really good?
Yeah, he's good.
Why is he still on the board? I feel like he was really good last year.
Yeah, no, he was well, here's the thing is catchers are definitely devalued here just because you don't need to draft a catcher, but I think it's almost too far, right? Like you got these guys who are flyers and sleepers and unknowns, and like you said, like he's just a good hitter. All right. One more pick and then that's it. How do you feel? Another dinger under your belt?
I mean, it's always fun, of course. I don't have high expectations. It's interesting. I definitely went infield heavy early, which I don't think is necessarily a good thing, but
well, it's not necessarily a bad thing either. All right, well, let's break it down. Got a couple seconds. This pick will be done. All right, that is it. So let's put up the rosters real quick. Completed. Okay. Let's do yours first.
All right.
There it is. All right. So you had the 6. You went with Skeens in round 2. Look at the pictures. Skeens, Sale, Rodon, Barrios, Ivaldi, Hauk, your favorite, and Blanco. Pretty deep. I mean, you got some high-end talent. I feel like Rodon, look, I've been skeptical about Rodon the last couple of years, right? But his metrics all look really good last year. So I think that's pretty good value. And you're not afraid to take a guy like Skeens early here. Like, I think you feel pretty good about pitchers, right?
I mean,
You like the pitcher?
he's probably going to have a UCL injury because that's what it seems like happens to all the good young pitchers. But
don't put that on him. Don't put that on. All right. Infield, you got Marte, Jazz, Ozzy, Albies, Paredes. I was actually about to take him before you did. Volpe, Glaber, and Yanir Diaz. Again, very solid throughout.
All right. Yeah, I don't really know.
Tucker, Teoscar, Quan, PCA, Soler, and Abreu. All right, so you only got 6 outfielders. I mean, it's a little riskier just because Kyle Tucker, we want to make sure he stays healthy, right? If he stays healthy and has a monster year like he should, then I think you're fine. Quan is pretty consistent and solid. Maybe not as high of a ceiling for the last couple of outfielders, but overall, I like PCA a lot. So there's the thing too, the flex, as long as you have 3 solid outfielders, you can flex one of those infielders, and I think it's fine. All right.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll honestly be fun to see how these teams do at the end of the year.
Exactly. All right. So pitcher, I can't stop drafting Seattle pitchers. So I got 2. Got Gilbert and Kirby. Got Framber and I guess Arrighetti, who you already know is one of my favorite sleepers. Got 2 Houston pitchers, Flaherty, the discount, and Chris Sanchez, one of my favorite late round pitchers.
How funny is it that Flaherty is back on the Tigers?
Yeah.
Didn't they trade him to the Dodgers last year? Like in the middle of the season?
Well, I mean, look, if you think about it, they got a return for him. I mean, they weren't going to win the World Series, right? The Dodgers were predestined. So they got something for him, and now they got him back. Why not?
Like only in like baseball could that happen, right? Like imagine if like the Mavs traded Luka to the Lakers. Not that Flaherty is one of the best players in baseball, but you know what I mean? But like the Mavs aren't then going to try to sign Luka back next year as a free agent. Like you know what I mean? Like they're like, hey, go win a World Series with the Dodgers, and then next year come on back.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't work that way in other sports. But like you said, in baseball, the player pool is a lot bigger. So
yes,
it's a business. I don't know, Vlad. We'll see. Could be a huge season for him. I'm feeling it. Trey Turner, I feel like is really undervalued in this format. In this draft, his ADP
selling you on Vlad so much? What's selling you on Vlad so much?
What's selling me on Vlad? Well, I feel like he's always been a guy who has the ability to be MVP. I mean, he's got the goods, but free agent year, it's his walk year.
There it is. Okay. Okay. I know how that works.
He's talking the talk. Yep. All right.
He wants to get paid.
He wants to get paid. Of course he does. Got Tovar Pascatino, I feel like is great in this format. Gets a lot of walks and doubles, offset the lack of home run power. And even a guy like Carlos Santana, who people forget still is in the league, he's going to accumulate a lot of bases. So boring, but effective. And then I don't love my outfield either. I feel like there's a lot of risk here. Tyler O'Neill, we'll see if he has some spike weeks. I feel like Victor Robles might be nice. I know I reached for him, but he could steal a ton of bases and get on base, and then a couple of flyers. So again, I'm trying to differentiate. I've been doing, doing a few of these, so try to get some different players. All right, Anthony wants to know. Yeah, see, Anthony's with me. He says he thinks Vlad's going to blow up this year. When are we doing the next baseball draft? We'll do another one of these next week. As far as our league, I probably need to get that going. It's almost March. Send out the invites and get an end game draft going. So obviously, Chris gets the first invite. And then after that, put it in the Discord and our community, guys who are in that fantasy baseball channel, first crack, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the YouTube community here. And anybody wants to join, have a nice, fun but competitive league, right?
Yep.
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, guys.
I'm not
check
really
out,
ready.
You're ready. I know you're ready. You're ready to drop right now.
I just did.
Well, you want more. You can't get enough. Let's do another one of these next week, and then check out all the videos. Still got videos coming out probably pretty much every other day. Have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.